What's your worst I know this looks bad, but I can explain moment? Years ago I was dating this girl, and I had just acquired a black powder gun. Now for those of you who don't know, one of the parts on many of the black powder guns is called a nipple, and you usually require a wrench to get off. Mine didn't have this wrench, so I punched in Ruger nipple wrench into Google and went downstairs to grab a drink. When I come back into her room, she's looking at my laptop, wide-eyed and nervously says I don't know if I would be into that. Cue my reaction of what? No. Wait, it's a gun tool thing I swear. Usually require a wrench to get off. You aren't making this better for yourself. Mine's a little different. I was at a corporate function and noticed that the president of the company was trying to clean his glasses with a paper napkin. Being the well-prepared person I am, I always keep a microfiber cloth in my pocket. I wear glasses too, and I prefer to actually clean the glasses, not just smudge the oils around. I digress. So I reach into my pocket, grab a cloth, and hand it to him, and he responds with a confused hug. Now, at this time I also have a son who is going through potty training, so I tended to keep spare clothes, usually in my backpack, but also in the pockets of my overcoat. I look over, and the president of my company is kind of staring at the unused, thank God, pair of Jake and the Neverland Pirates underwear, boy size small, I just handed him. And of course, my immediate response wasn't to laugh, wasn't to say oh, those are my kids' backup pair. No, my response was to immediately say those aren't mine, which was 1, obvious, and 2, not guilty sounding at all. I am having a crap day, thank you for making me laugh. When my daughter was around 3 years old, she casually told my wife that daddy likes to come into my room naked and play with me. It took a minute to realize what she was talking about. A few weeks prior to that, she had woken up screaming. Bad dream, I'm guessing. I jump out of bed wearing nothing but boxer briefs to see what the problem was. To get her to stop crying, I tried to make her laugh. Luckily, my wife believed me. Of course, Abby, I trust you. Frantically call 911. My friend Anna was in her 20s, but she looked really young, easily as though she could be a minor. She had too much to drink at the bar, so I started carrying her home on my shoulders as she was having a really hard time walking. As we got to her house, I went to let her down and she fell off and smacked her head on the fence. She was wearing a skirt and as she fell it went up to her waist. I'm trying to get her to come to so she can go in her house when an old lady walks out on her porch and starts screaming, "What are you doing to that little girl? Where are her clothes?" I try to calmly explain that this is her house and I'm just a friend trying to get her home, but she just 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 her home. As I tell my friend we are about to call an ambulance, she immediately comes to and fixes her skirt and stands up. The old lady says, "Oh, you were right. I guess she had clothes the whole time." I work at a school portrait company. I retouch thousands of images and sometimes I need to retouch inappropriate things. Well, this high school girl was wearing a see-through shirt and I had to retouch out her nipples. I was in the office by myself as a 20-something-year-old man when a girl walks in and sees me zoomed in on this high school girl's see-through shirt. I can explain. I told her I'm not a creep. I'm just retouching her shirt so you can't see her nipples. It was very awkward, but since she worked as a photographer she completely understood once I explained. I used to work in youth sports photography. This process is actually important. We had someone order a poster size image of their basketball player, but up you could see the outline of his junk. We had to be sure to fix it because taking the calls of upset parents over these issues is just awkward. As a broke college kid, one of my go-to meals was a $0.69 chili dog from 7-Eleven, which was 4 blocks from my dorm. I had no car. One winter's night, I bundled up in my heavy coat, gloves, and beanie and went to get Missile 1. So I'm heading back, holding my foil-wrapped dinner, and decide to run to get out of the cold faster. Next thing I know, a cop car screeches to a halt in front of me, and I'm ordered to the ground. Spent the next couple minutes explaining to NJPD why I'm running out of a convenience store at night in a ski mask, waving a shiny metal object. TLDR, suspected assault with a deadly whiner. I hope the cop thought it was funny. Sucks you probably ended up with a cold wiener though. This happened in high school, shortly after I started dating my first boyfriend. At the time, I would often wear a camisole with a built-in bra layered under a v-neck tee. One day, I was wearing this outfit but wanted to go shopping after school for other shirts, so I brought a regular bra with me to try stuff on. After I got out of the store, I for some reason didn't want to put the bra in my bag, so I put it in the armrest compartment between the front seats of my dad's car, and of course immediately forgot it was there. The next day, my parents were getting ready to go somewhere. They had left the house, but moments later my mom barged back in, demanding to know why I was taking off my clothes in the car. I frantically tried to explain the clothes shopping story, but to this day I'm not sure she bought it. I thought for sure the turn was going to be your mom blaming your dad for having an affair. Sister came home to her boyfriend and our brother laying his head in his lap. Her BF was holding his head in his lap and stroking his head and back. She was confused and as soon as she opened her mouth her BF turned around. Oh hey, be quiet. He just fell asleep. Apparently my brother got food poisoning and was throwing up constantly. Her BF showed up to return some things she left at his house. So being him, he helped our brother get some medicine from the store, change, and stroked his head on the couch till he fell asleep. It took a while since he was always getting up to throw up. We all laugh about it now. Husband material right there. I was really tall in junior high. One of my best friends at the time was pretty short, and we had a running joke where he would use a little kid voice whenever standing next to me, because I was so much taller. So one day we're playing tag around my church building. Grew up in a conservative house, after most people had already left, and my buddy runs into the bathroom and locks himself in a stall. But I was taller than the wall of the stall, so I pressed up against it and looked down at him and said in my best creepy voice, "You can't hide from me," and he used his little kid voice to say, "Oh no, somebody please help." Of course, one of the old church ladies was standing in the doorway behind us, watching the whole thing with horror. Turns out she was there to clean, and caught us at exactly the wrong time. Oh no. 4th grade, all of the kids in my class had figured out that they could get up to sharpen their pencils whenever they wanted. A way to break up the monotony, I suppose. Several students abused this privilege and I didn't want to be counted among the abusers, as Mrs. Spangler had become vocal about this. During an assignment, my pencil was dull to the point that the wood was scratching on my paper. I decided to use my thumbnail to break the wood away from the tip and expose the graphite so that I didn't have to sharpen it. As I was doing this, my teacher walked by and exclaimed, "You're trying to break your pencil." I didn't have time to establish a defense before she admonished me in front of the class. I still think about it sometimes. I'm 37. You're innocent. I was practicing anatomy for drawing a course, so I had to look up naked models and stuff. No big deal, just to get the human form down. Nothing too weird. I get done sketching for the day and went to bed. Over the weekend I was animating and my dad walked in my room to ask me something. Well, he goes, "What the heck?" and picks up a drawing. I was like, "What?" and he sees these drawings. I legit said the line, "Wait, I can explain," and he walked away laughing. In the beginning months of a relationship, I was staying over at my girlfriend's apartment. We were in bed, and the only light in the room came from a bright lamp on the end table, on her side of the bed. Now, in addition to being a bit sensitive to bright light, I have a lazy eye that makes it hard to focus on things that are really close. Things like my girlfriend, at that particular moment. So naturally, I asked, "Could you turn off the light? You're really hard to look at." I don't know which of us had the bigger look of horror on our faces. Enjoyed your story, but I wanted to say, in case you still have a lazy eye, they make patches that are essentially band-aids you can put over your strong eye to force the weaker one to become stronger, fixing the problem. I had recently started dating this girl. We had been together maybe 3 months, and I had yet to do the meet the parents thing. I had been putting it off as her dad was this fearsome Scottish dude who was known for his temper. Anyhow, at my 19th birthday party, as so many do at this age, things got out of control. It was supposed to be a garden party, but it got changed to a garage party when the weather let me down. It was slinging it down, As my parents didn't want a mess, everyone was supposed to take off shoes when coming in the house for the toilet. As you can imagine, after everyone breaks the pee seal, few lads can be bothered with all that just for pee. So we are all going through my back gate and using the grass around the corner. This also becomes the outdoor smoking spot, and the combined foot traffic in the rain does not take long to turn this into a quagmire of mud and pee. My girlfriend takes a massive swig of vodka. Mistake. This is not staying down. She dashes outside to vomit. She hurls up everywhere in this mud, then promptly falls over in it. She is so hammered she then rolls over onto her front to stand back up. She now looks like the Swamp Thing, and she is going downhill fast. She is under strict instructions to be home by midnight, and it is now 11 PM and she can barely stand. This is a small town with no taxi company, and the 1-mile walk across town with someone in this state is not happening, as quite a lot of people are staying over. My first gambit was to ring her home and try to get her permission to stay over too. Of course it was her dad who answered. That request went down like a crap sandwich and was given a very firm no from the dad, who then just hung up as the conversation was over. Crap. So I have to ring back and sheepishly explain that she is too far gone to move under her own power. He will need to come and get her. Fine. Hangs up again. It was then I knew I really fricked up. She was still in Swamp Thing mode and her dad would be here in no time. We had to clean her up. We had already gotten her out of her jumper, with her still throwing up in the toilet. I explained I was going to lend her some of my jeans. In my drunken brain this was an awesome plan. We just had to wait for her to stop being sick. This didn't happen. Panic is rising. This was more than a one-person job. I then got her best friend to help her out of her jeans. I did not hear the dad arrive as the front door was open from other people leaving. He just walked straight in. I guess someone directed him upstairs as he walks into the bathroom, just in time to see myself and Lucy peeling the jeans down over his daughter's ass as she was still being sick in the toilet. Time stopped. Had I asked anyone else to help I would probably be dead. It was a year before I went around for dinner. She fell in the Swamp Thing. A female friend of mine who is a police officer was on a welfare check and was bit by the property owner's dog. She was about a mile from my house when bit, and because I am an EMT she decided to call me to see if I could inspect where she was bitten and advise if she needed to go to the hospital. She show up at my house and limps into the kitchen telling me the dog bit her just below her left butt cheek on the rear of her upper thigh. I was worried that the bite had broke the skin and she would need to get it bandaged and possibly get a rabies shot. I told her that I would have to take a look at the bite to help her, so she takes off her duty belt and pulls her pants down to around her knees to expose the bite area. It didn't look too bad, but there were 2 spots where the dog's teeth had broke the skin. I told her I would bandage it up so she could make the 20-minute drive to the clinic. I was just about to bandage her leg when my wife walks through the door. There I am with one of our female friends, standing in our kitchen, in her police officer uniform, pants down. She was wearing a thong. I was sitting, so basically her butt was in my face, and my hands on her upper thigh butt. We both had the deer in the headlight stare as we realized how bad this must have looked to my wife. We then both shouted out in unison it was a dog bite. I was volunteering at a pool for my instructor's certification. The girl I was with was really thirsty and asked if I would mind getting her a Powerade from the vending machine since she couldn't leave her class. She told me where her wallet was so I could get her change. Another staff member walked in while I was taking the money from her wallet. I was the most straight-laced, nervous kid on earth. LOL. I explained. She either believed me or checked with the lifeguard later, but either way, the first girl got her Powerade and the pool hired me later, so the second girl knows I'm not a thief. The girl I was with was really thirsty, nice, and asked if I would mind getting her a Powerade from the vending machine. Oh. One of my friends was in a cycling accident commuting home from class one night and wound up in the air. She needed someone to make sure her dog, Fox, is taken care of and tells me she left her bedroom window unlocked so I should be able to get in the house. Now Fox is semi-familiar with me, but I still don't like the idea of crawling in a window and facing a pretty big dog unannounced. So I've got the window in the alley cracked and I'm trying to call Fox and let her know that I'm there and coming in. I'm saying stuff like hey foxy girl, foxy lady etc. Meanwhile the upstairs neighbor hears all of this while she is sitting on the toilet and thinks someone is doing some perv peeping Tom stuff looking into windows. Luckily it was all cleared up pretty quickly as we were all college kids that saw each other in and out fairly often, but it almost took a bad turn. I got super high and drunk one night with my best friend and his GF. They stayed at my house. My friend is a loud snorer so his GF ended up sleeping on my couch. My best friend in my guest room upstairs. At 4 AM I woke up still pretty drunk and high. For some reason I felt the need to check social media but couldn't find my phone. Drunk and high me decided to go downstairs to find my phone. Without realizing his GF was on the couch, I reached down by a pillow to check for my phone. She wakes up, and I'm left there having to explain at 4 AM why I'm grabbing her face. I don't think she believes my story to this day and I look like a rapist. My phone was in my pocket the whole time. Upside, it was her face that you grabbed. Called my co-worker of S. I was in second year university and lived in a house with 7 people. 4 guys 3 girls, and for some reason S was a term of endearment in that house. We all called each other S, male or female, and it became just a part of our language. Someone walks in the door, yell out sup S and carry on with your day. At this time, I was working retail, and this one co-worker reminded me a lot of one of my roommates. She was super chill and funny and we got along really well. One day during lunch I'm sitting in the break room reading something on my phone. There's about 4 or 5 other people in there, and she walks into the room. I notice her and without even looking up from my phone goes up S. Immediately the entire room goes silent and as I can see all my other co-workers preparing to tear me a new butthole for calling her that. Understandably, from their perspective, I have to frantically try to explain why I just insulted her for no apparent reason. Thankfully once I explained everyone understood and thought it was funny, but I thought I was going to get fired for a few seconds there. I've done the same thing except my co-worker is a 50-year-old woman from Long Island. It took me a few minutes to clear it up. This was several years ago, when I was still living at home. I was dating this woman and we were at my house, sitting on the couch watching a movie. Her head was in my lap. This is an important detail later. She was prone to migraines and was having one at that moment. She asked me to turn off the lamp on the side table because light sensitivity, and I turned it off. Then she said it was still too bright, and asked if I could put a pillow over her head. So we're sitting there still watching the movie. Out comes my dad from the bedroom, who sees his son with his girlfriend who has her head in his lap covered by a pillow. He didn't know what to do, until I realized what it looked like and showed him that she totally wasn't giving me a BJ in the living room. I totally went with the thought that he was looking at you like you suffocated her and was just sitting there with her laying on you still. I was out one night and forgot my keys. Was trying to climb in an open downstairs window when a cop car pulled up outside. Not a good look. Thankfully my housemate finally woke up and came down. We rented so would have been hard to prove as mine had a different address. Also a dog followed me home and they asked if it was my dog and it was cute so I said it was. Found the owner later in the week though. Good for him them. Bad for us. LOL to the dog part. Also glad he found his way home. A few years ago, I had a baby I had been babysitting for several months. I had an interview on her street one night with a different family and when that was over, I was walking past the first baby's house on the way to the train station. My apartment was on a bus line, so I needed to check the bus schedule to see if I would make it home on time or if I needed to get an Uber. I stood in front of the baby's house because I could get on the Wi-Fi. I was about to press the Uber app when I heard a car to my right and saw the baby's dad driving out of their driveway. He looked at me like he had just seen a ghost. He started to roll down his window and I threw my hands up in defense. I said, I had an interview down the street. The dad said anxiously, are you free right now? I said puzzled. Yes. The dad asked, you want a job? I said, okay. He then pointed to the back seat where his wife was hunched over and said he needed to take her to the air. The dad handed me his keys and I went around to the back side of the car and took the baby's car seat out of the base. As I was shutting the door, the mom told me to put the baby to bed. So I went inside and put the baby to sleep. The dad texted me all night asking if I needed to go, but I told him I was fine to stay until whenever. When he and his wife got back, they said it was just a case of dehydration. Then the dad sat down and looked at me quizzically and asked, "You were stealing our Wi-Fi, weren't you?" So I then told the story of how I was about to call an Uber because I wasn't going to make my bus. The mom said how she'd been feeling sick all day but didn't think I'd be available and she wasn't going to ask me, and then said how she was so relieved to see me in front of the house and that the universe was smiling on her. I had stayed for 4 hours, so was expecting $60. I charged $15 an hour, maybe $70. The dad gave me $125 for the trouble. When I was 17, my phone stopped receiving texts for no obvious reason. I went online and told my BF I wasn't able to receive his messages. I told my older sister, who said I could give her my SIM and then she would see if it worked on her phone. So I gave her my SIM and she said the texts were coming through and she would forward them from her phone to mine. I can't remember exactly why she needed to do this as it was years ago, but anyway. But then she said this text will look weird when it comes through from me, but just remember it's not from me, it's from my BF's name. So I got my SIM back, went on my phone, which was now working, and read the text which had come through from my sister but which was from my BF. It said, "I will take it off for you, baby." I went onto my texts to see what that had been in reply to, as I hadn't remembered texting anything sexual to him beforehand and felt mortified. Turned out I had texted him to say that I couldn't shower because there was a huge wasp on my bottle of shampoo and jokingly asked him to come over from nearly 2 hours away to take it off for me. So his response was him joking that he would. But my sister obviously didn't think it was that innocent, and as a 29-year-old who still treated me like a child, she was very awkward about it. My phone did that too, and stopped receiving calls. God, I miss that phone and its 4 days of use battery life. So back in college, my friend is giving out tours to potential students. He asks to show my room on a Saturday. I agree and forget. Now in college, almost all my friends were girls. I had a serious girlfriend from high school who I stayed with, so it was easy to make friends with girls as they didn't find me threatening. They knew I wouldn't hit on them or anything, so we'd hand out a lot. We'd even sleep over at each other's dorms. Like they'd be in their beds, I'd be on the floor or whatnot. So one night 4 of them decide to sleep over at my floor. Being a nice guy, I take the floor and let 2 of them use my bed while 2 others sleep on the floor. I get up at around 9 AM. They're still sleeping, so I get on my computer in the same room. All of a sudden I hear a key in the door and in walks my tour buddy with 4 families. My 2 friends in bed wake up and sit up in fear. They instinctively pull the covers up so it looks like both are naked. Meanwhile the other 2 on the floor are sleeping and I'm on the computer chilling. They all look at us in shock and I just go, "Oh, I forgot this was today." One of the dads laugh and says, "Well, it looks like a nice school." All the guys on the tour look like they're ready to sign up to go to the school on the spot. I didn't even explain anything. They all just looked for a second and left to view another room. On the way out, another dad stays behind for a second, looks at me and says, "Nice." We all had a great laugh about it. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.